Well, welcome back to Radio Entrepreneurs. Again, my name is JDavis. I'm the host of the show. We continue to stream stories of leadership, entrepreneurship, and how people are dealing with this economy. Thank you also to our producer, Jillian King, for organizing this show and keeping the trains moving through the station. Our next guest is TJ Van Gerven, founder of Modern Wealth Builders. Welcome, TJ.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me on the show.
Great. Tell us about your practice because it sounds a little bit unique.
Yeah, absolutely. So I started my RIA back in 2018 and wanted to build, the wealth management and financial planning practice that I would want to work with. Working primarily with younger couples, millennials primarily who, at least one partner has some form of equity compensation, but really what they're looking to do together is use their resources strategically, build towards work optional and just figure out how to make it, in this world where it's hard. Affordability is very difficult. Retaining your wealth is very difficult. And so, I want to make a transparent practice where, fixed fee basis and just including kind of both planning and wealth management and really focusing on, what is not just the money, how do we accumulate the money, but also what is it really for? And remembering, that our time is finite and that the money is just a tool. So that's kind of how I got to where I am today.
You work alone?
Yeah, I do. I have some help, but it's just solo practice. So get to work with every client one-on-one and makes it nice to not have, a million clients you're working with and really have, a one-on-one relationship with everybody.
And how do you make sure that you have the most up-to-date back room, back office information, compliance, all the different things that people normally have in your industry?
Yeah, it's a great question. So, I would say the technology nowadays allows you to do things that you couldn't do even like 20 years ago. So I got my start through XY Planning Network, and they really gave me all of the basic technology needed. So they give you access to, the custodian. Over time, I've added pieces for myself, like having my own, compliance attorney that I can reference for certain things. But staying up to date for technical knowledge, it's primarily relying on things like Kitsis. If you're familiar with Michael Kitsis, he has a lot of educational stuff there. But, just kind of upfront, I worked for, Ameriprise office, working underneath an advisor, being a paraplanner, sawing how the broker-dealer worked there, and then learning about the RIA space and just, really trying to figure out where the value is. And for me, it's in the behavioral management as far as staying invested, staying disciplined, and then also tax planning. So thinking about over the course of your lifetime, where you're going to pay taxes, how to minimize that tax liability. And so, like I said, there's a lot of different third-party technology now that allows you to do things that, I think a lot of, the financial industry uses a lot of complex stuff to sell things that doesn't necessarily add value to the client's life. So I don't know if that answers your question, but that's how I think about
Your answer. That's
it.
and, and how do you get clients?
Yeah, it's a great question. So, obviously building trust is very difficult. Financial advisor industry is not the most trusted industry historically for good reason. I mean, a lot of times it was, product salespeople masquerading as, advice professionals. So the way I've done it is just slow and steady is really trying to, do things like this where I talk about expertise. I have my own podcast called Do More With Your Money. Social media presence. So really just trying to educate clients on the way I view planning and wealth management. Try to be transparent about if you go to my website, that is my storefront. So just kind of, you know, tweaking it over time to make sure that's speaking to my ideal demographic, which again is that younger couple. At least one client has some form of equity compensation. They're making a household income maybe of like 300K plus, and they have discretionary income, but they don't really know what to do with it. So they're trying to figure out what does it mean to have a household investment strategy, how to take advantage of their retirement accounts, or maybe not. Maybe they want to prioritize, saving because they want to get that down payment on the home. So it's really just figuring out what they want.
My mother grew up a Depression era child, and she always saved every dollar, believed in cash. Millennials have a reputation for not understanding the hardships and the need to save money. Is that
Sure.
something you find?
I would say, millennials, a lot of times That can be the case for sure, but a lot of times they're very conservative where they're holding more cash than is necessary. I think, millennials get a bad rap and for good reason. I'm sure there's a lot of millennials that do feel that way, but we have experienced, things like 2008 financial crisis. Even if we weren't directly impacted by it, we saw kind of how our parents had to deal with it. And, even going back earlier to kind of tech.com bubble and, obviously, 9/11 type situation. So there is some like financial trauma there. I think a lot of times millennials feel like they need to take like exorbitant risk to achieve their goals. So they're chasing things like very speculative type cryptocurrencies or individual stocks. If you know the whole meme stock bubble situation where they're because they feel like they have been left behind with the affordability. It's very difficult given current salaries to be able to even make a down payment on a home. A lot of times they can only afford the down payment with help from family members. So I definitely think that there are some people that are irresponsible, but a lot of times I think they're actually more conservative than they need to be because they've had such a scarcity mindset.
So tell us about your podcast, because I bet you that's a critical element of your business.
Yeah, it is. It's called Do More with Your Money. So it really just started out as monologues of me going through various topics of financial planning, just understanding the basics of like, what is a Roth IRA? What does it mean to go, pre-tax in your retirement contributions versus post-tax? Thinking through, owning the world stock market versus owning individual stock and why, compounding, what compound interest is and how to sustainably do that over time as opposed to, again, chasing these very speculative type investments. And so started out with just monologues, and then over time it did transition into bringing on experts in various topics. And so my goal is always to educate the audience and try to provide value to them, even if we never work together.
So do you see your business changing a lot in the next couple of years with AI, but also being alone? Is that something you want to continue to do?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think it's a great time to be like a solo entrepreneur, which is what I would kind of consider myself. I've built a nice job for myself. I wouldn't necessarily say it's a business because, it is primarily dependent on me. But because of all these tools with AI and technology in general, you can automate so much more than you could in the past, which really allows the solo professional to thrive. So I feel very well positioned to compete as a solo advisor with these bigger firms because the playing field has been leveled with the access to AI. I mean, I use several AI tools just to be able to, capture client meetings and really have a really great meeting summary, and it captures all of the action items from the meeting. I can go back and say, hey, what did we talk about specifically? What did they mention with this amount? And it kind of eliminates that whole need for, even when I started in the industry as a paraplanner, I would be sitting in on meetings and taking notes for the advisor, and that's kind of a role that's been totally eliminated. So I think for bigger firms, there's going to be some collateral damage there, but for the solo professional, you're actually going to be able to compete very well.
Great. Interesting listening to you and the way you're looking at how to approach your business. TJ, if someone wants to get hold of you, talk about their finances and learn more about your business and how you could help them, how would they find you?
Yeah, so mementofinancialplanning.com, you can learn everything there, or Modern Wealth Builders. We recently changed from Modern Wealth Builders to Memento FP, but you can learn everything you want there, all my socials and podcast.
That's great. Well, continued success and thank you for being on Radio Entrepreneurs.
Awesome. Thank you for having me.
Great. Everybody, we're going to take a break. There'll be more stories always coming on Radio Entrepreneurs.